Hey, what's going on, guys? Got a question earlier this week about how to stop the cycle of worrying once it's already started, once you're already in that state of mind. And I think that's an excellent question, because a lot of times you will dig yourself deeper, not knowing the specific techniques or tips in order to get you out of said cycle. Well, I'm going to start things off with a little bit of a statistic for you, where the typical person, your everyday Joe, worries about 20 hours a week. And someone that is more of a worrier and someone that has maybe an anxiety disorder, I mean, you're coming in at about double that, about 40 hours per week, worrying about, whatever it is that's, stuck on your mind. Well, the thing of it is there's one key. You know what I mean? There is one key that starts the whole process of, stopping this cycle. And that's, getting yourself back to the present moment. You know, what causes these anxious feelings and starts your worry is typically, like guilt and things that you're worried about. And for me, what I've learned is, guilt is typically past tense. Things that have happened to you in the past, things that you've done in the past that, you'd like to either, rectify, or you still have a hard time accepting, or, you know what I mean? I guess just getting over what someone has done to you in the past, something that you've done in your past. And then worry is more the future, something that hasn't happened yet. So I mean, you spend a lot of time and effort, worrying about these, worrying about the future. And the funny thing is when you're in this anxious state, I mean, you have, I guess, like a regimen, you know what I mean, that you typically follow. And I mean, you're using the same exact things while worrying that you would do in order to problem solve. Like, I mean, you're anticipating, what could possibly happen. You're planning for, I guess what you would do if, said worry would to happen. You analyze, you start to get creative, and, that creativeness is not always in a positive way. And what I what I suggest is first we're going to go through a series of steps on how to get yourself back to the present moment. Because I want you to know, and I want you to write this down, is that guilt and worry are completely useless. I mean, they do nothing for you. I mean, you can sit and feel guilty consistently. You can worry on a constant basis. But what are you really accomplishing besides, disempowering yourself and making yourself feel bad? So first and foremost, we're going to get to how to get back to the present moment once you're already in this anxious state. First, it's breathing. Breathing is everything. What you're going to do, or this is what I do, and you can, mess with the seconds however you, deem fit and what's ever comfortable for you. But like, I breathe in through my nose to a count of 5, and then I breathe out to a count of 8 through my mouth. And I do this 5 or 6 times, and I start to try to notice, notice things around me, like, what do I see? Like, what's the textures under my feet or under my hands? What am I sitting on? Is it a hard surface? Like, notice the temperature. Notice any noises or sounds that are going on around you. And, I typically can do this 5, 6 times, and then I'm back to present, and I know, my surroundings. I'm back. I've taken myself out of my, worrisome future, and I've also pulled myself back from my guilty past. I mean, for a long time, I did live looking forward and always looking in the rear view, which, like I said earlier, worry and guilt are completely useless. So once you're in the present moment, you use these same steps, your analytical mind, your planning, your creativeness, in order to, I guess, proactively fix the things that you're worried about. Once you're back in the present mind, present moment, you can start to, try to think back, what exactly were the things that were triggering you worrying in the first place? I mean, was it money? Was it weight? Was it, a fight with a boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, friend? You know what I mean? Or were you feeling guilty about something that you'd done in the past? I mean, are you feeling, guilt because you didn't buy something for somebody, or that you said something to somebody. And, I mean, we have a tendency to replay these movies, and that's where your creative mind comes into play. I mean, you replay this movie over and over again, you beat yourself to death, and make yourself feel horrible. Well, another tip that I, like to use is, throughout my day, previously, I would worry about all these things, and they would consistently just, bring me down, bring me down, bring me down, depress me, make me feel anxious, make me feel sorry and sad, and, all the negative things that, the things that you don't want to be feeling. So what I suggest, what I do is I carry a little pocket notebook with me, maybe in my top pocket, or, for girls, in your purse or something like that, something where it's easily accessible. And what you do is, like, every time that you recognize yourself, getting into this worried state, what I mean? You have to be really, really, like, I guess, engaged and, like, really see it coming, what I mean? It's like, start to get to know your triggers. And I mean, if you're starting to worry about, say money, for instance, you write it down in this little little pad. You write down, worried about money, worried about bills, worried about debt, or, like I said, if it's weight, worried about losing this 5 pounds, I got a vacation coming up, whatever. Things that you're worried about, you write it down, you jot it down, and you put it back in your purse, you put it back in your pocket. And what you do is you set aside a time later on in the evening, after your day, and, you set aside like a 15-minute block where you allow yourself time to worry. And I know that doesn't seem very comfortable, and it almost seems like unorthodox, but just go with this. Trust me, it works. It works perfectly. And I mean, throughout your day, say you write down 5 or 6 things. So at, say, we'll say a time of 9 o'clock, you give yourself between 9 and 9:15 to worry. But really, in all actuality, what you're doing is you're going to give yourself time to problem solve. So if you're worried about, money, you're going to sit and use your creative mind, use your planning, your goal setting, all the things in the strategizing, all the things that you typically do when you worry anyways, but to try to ask yourself the right questions and try to figure out, proactive ways to, rectify the things that are worrying you and the things that you're guilty about. I mean, you know, and the funniest part of this whole thing is, like, I mean, I've had days where I've written down 15 things that I, decided were worthy of the worry notebook, and I would flip it open at 9 o'clock, and I would almost laugh to myself because, I mean, maybe 5, 6, maybe even 10 of those things were things that weren't even bothering me anymore at that point. So, you know, I mean, that's going to take away a lot of the worry because you're setting aside time, and then you're not allowing yourself to do it during the day, and you're giving yourself permission to do this later on in the day. I mean, it seems kind of weird, but I mean, you can really train yourself to do this. It's just something that you have to practice. You know what I mean? Practice makes perfect, and you're going to, remove and replace the old behavior, by setting this time frame for you. And in that time, you're going to write down different things that you can do and things that you can start, that night or tomorrow, the next morning or whatever, to try to fix these things that you worry about. And, that's, honestly the absolute best advice I can think of, because I mean, if you're feeling guilty, say, and you can also put that in your worry notebook, things that you're guilty about, something that you did in your past. I mean, and then when you're sitting down at 9 o'clock and you're figuring it out, really take time to put it in perspective. Like, I mean, forgive yourself. You know what I mean? No one really typically goes out on a mission to hurt somebody or to do something wrong or to do something to impact someone's life. So, you really do have to forgive yourself. And then, write down in this journal that, if you're feeling so horrible about this, why not call and apologize? I mean, is it 100% guaranteed that someone's going to forgive you? No. But that's not your problem. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know that you might have done something to hurt someone, but it's really not your problem if they don't choose to forgive you. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You know what I mean? Take things for what they are, not worse than they are. You can choose to feel guilty and you can choose to worry. You don't have to worry about those things, because what did we say at the beginning of the video? Worry and guilt are useless. They have no utility. You know what I'm saying? I mean, do you want to be right or do you want to be effective? You know what I'm saying? I mean, sure, you can say, oh, I should be worrying about this and I should be guilty about this and I did this to myself and blah, blah, blah. But really what you're doing is you're giving yourself a secondary benefit. You know, and what I mean by that is you're giving yourself an excuse to not live in the present moment. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes it's hard to live in the in the now. In the now is kind of scary because, like I said, you have all your worries and you have all the things that you're guilty for, and sometimes that can can be hard to deal with. But so what I suggest is, like, try to move on. You have to move on from certain things if you want to get out of this cycle. You have to allow yourself that, because you know what I'm saying. It's like you got to think to yourself, like, what has worrying ever gotten you, ever? You know what I'm saying? It's funny because what happens is you'll be worrying about one thing, and you worry about it and you worry about it, and that day never comes, or that particular thing never comes. But yet you'll get sideswiped by something that you didn't even see coming, something that wasn't even in your cycle of worry. So first, get back to the present moment. Use your breathing exercises. You know, see, hear, feel everything around you. Get yourself back to the present moment. Use the worry notebook. Write the things down and set aside a time in the evening to problem solve and to figure out. I mean, there's thousands of ways to fix the problem. You have to set goals and, like I said, do it one step at a time. You know what I mean? At least you're moving in the right direction. Momentum and accomplishment is the number one enemy of anxiety, worry, and guilt. I mean, because what those things typically tend to do is to keep you stationary, keep you from moving forward and growing. And that's obviously not what anyone wants. I mean, you don't want to be in that situation, you know? So third, after you've done those things, take that next step. Don't be afraid to take the next step. Take the step that's going to rectify these worryful thoughts, the things that you're guilty about, and you'll be a better person for it. You'll feel better inside. I promise you that. If you have any other questions, if you feel confused about any of this, let me know. Like I said, continue to every week try to come back with something extra to try to get you one step closer to your recovery. Again, my Facebook page, Power of Self, search it, like it, and like I said, feel free to throw me out some questions. Like I said, please hit the like button here, subscribe to my channel. You guys have an excellent evening. I hope this helped you. Good night.